What's going on, everybody? Appreciate checking in. All right, final day of going over the undrafted free agents that I think have a chance at making this 53-man roster. And so, if you haven't checked out my other videos, I did two previous videos that highlighted two players that I think have a chance. And in this video, I'm going to highlight two additional players that I think have a really good chance at making this roster as the undrafted free agents that we picked up after the draft. And so, we're going to kind of get into it. If you can, please, before we do, like this video, subscribe, turn those notifications. Next giveaway is at 4,000 subscribers. If you want to be included in that, hit that subscribe button. But at the very least, if you hit that like button, I would definitely appreciate it. And one of the things I want to do, I want to have a little bit more fun on this channel. And so we're going to do just a little bit of trivia. I'm going to hit you guys with a photo, and you guys, I'm going to hit you guys with a little bit of a question. So let's have a little bit of fun. And so let's start out. Name this player. Let's do that. Name this player, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. He played 3 years with the Raiders from 1979 to 1981 and led the team in sacks as a rookie in the 1979 season. So in the comment section down below, let me know who this player is and let me know how many sacks he had in that 1979 season. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's see who out there knows their Raider history. And so let's kind of go back to it. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to detail out two more names that I think have a really good chance at making this 53-man roster. What I want to do first is kind of go real quickly through the UDFAs that we brought in, right? So let's start on top. And I'm going to, there were some names that I had a lot of, I had a lot of struggles really tying it down to four names. I think there is a lot of talent that we brought in with the undrafted free agents. So I'm going to kind of go over real quickly and let you know some of the guys that I think could have made this list, but I choose four others. And again, go back to those two videos regarding the other two players that I highlighted. But first and foremost, Carter Bradley. I do think Carter Bradley could have a chance at making this team. He's got a battle against Anthony Brown Jr. I think the one thing that Carter Bradley does have going for him is I think he fits Luke Getzey's system pretty well. Right? He's not a very mobile quarterback. He played at a small school. One of the things that I will say about quarterbacks is the quarterback position is one of the hardest positions to evaluate. And so I don't know how high this coaching staff is on Anthony Brown Jr. Again, I know he's got a lot of arm talent. He played previously with the Ravens, and so that's a lot of good experience. But it's hard to know how this coaching staff really likes Anthony Brown Jr. and how he compares to Carter Bradley. But obviously, Carter Bradley's dad, Gus Bradley, our former defensive coordinator, he's got that NFL kind of bloodline, and so I think Carter Bradley has a chance. Again, it's so hard to evaluate quarterbacks. It's one of the hardest things to do in sports, in my opinion. So, as we kind of go down the line, a couple guys I think have a really good chance to make it, but I didn't highlight them. Ramel Keaton. I think Ramel Keaton, he was a good receiver out of Tennessee. There's a lot of things that I like about him, but the reason why I didn't put him on my list is mainly because of the depth that we have at the receiver position and the way that our roster is going to be set up on the offensive side. So, for example, he's most likely going to battle Devonta Adams, Jacoby Myers, as well as Michael Gallup that we just picked up. He's going to battle those guys for a spot, and I'm not sure that he's going to really beat out a guy like Michael Gallup. And then we have Trey Tucker, and we're going to need another speedster behind Trey Tucker just in case he goes down. I highlighted one of them in my previous videos, but that's already 5 receivers, and there's a good chance that we will only keep 5, maybe 6, depending on how many tight ends we keep on this roster. Luke Getzey likes to run 2 tight end sets, so there's a good chance we're going to hold or keep 3, possibly even 4 tight ends, which means we might not keep an additional receiver. And so that's why I think there's a chance that, it's going to be a really tough, a tough time for Ramel Keaton to possibly make this 53-man roster. And so we're going to keep going down. The other guy that I think, I liked him out of Maryland, Jaquan Shepard. He's the cornerback out of Maryland, 6'3", little tall, lengthy corner. Again, it all boils down to competition, right? We got Jack Jones on one side. We have Jacorian Bennett, our 4th-round pick from last year. We have Dekamarian Richardson, which we picked up in this year's 4th round. And then we have MJ Devonshire. I mean, we have an entire room of corners that I think are going to compete for that spot. And there's rumors that once the June 1st money hits to our salary cap, we might pick up another corner. And so I just don't know if there's room for another corner, even though that I do like Jaquan Shepard. I do think that he possesses some attributes and some skills that he could really uh, add to this cornerback room. I think this is a deep cornerback room that we have right now, and we have some names that we really need to look at and give a shot, especially drafting them where we did. So that's why I think there's a chance that he may not make this 53-man roster. He might find himself on another squad, or I think at the very least he will be on our practice squad. And so that kind of breaks down the undrafted free agents. And so let me know, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below. Is there anybody on that list that you think deserves to be on that list of making this 53-man roster? Again, there's two more names that I'm going to highlight on this video, and I'm going to get right into it. But let me know in the comment section down below. Who do you like? Who do you like to make this 53-man roster out of our undrafted free agents? And so the first guy, again, I'm going to highlight two. The first guy that I'm going to highlight is Amari Gainer. And I'm going to throw a little bit of twist in the end. All right. One thing about Amari Gainer, he's 6'4", 235 pounds out of North Carolina. And one of the things that I really liked about Amari Gainer is he's just a pure athlete. You know, he started at Florida State, and when he transferred over to North Carolina, you know, he was touted as one of the better athletes coming out of Florida State, and that's going to be in college football. And he went to North Carolina because he wanted to really solidify himself as that edge rusher. Now, one of the things that was tough for Amari Gainer was the fact that at Florida State, he played more of an inside linebacker. He did play outside a little bit, but he was more of a stand-up linebacker role. And he transferred over to North Carolina to play more of an edge. That's what he wanted to play. And so when he did that, he ended up finding himself not starting. He was basically a pass rush specialist. He kind of found himself as a role player. And so that was tough, you know, and I think that's why he dropped in as a draft prospect. I think that's why he found himself as an undrafted free agent, because he really just didn't get a lot of playing time. And it is tough going from one school playing at Florida State, being really an up and coming stud at Florida State. There was a lot of reports when I was looking more into Amari Gainer. There's a lot of reports that people at Florida State were excited to see this kid come back for his last season, but he ended up transferring. And when you transfer, it's tough to go to a new school, find yourself into a new system. But at the end of the day, he found himself becoming just a role player. But one of the things that I saw when he did get that opportunity to get on the field is that he's one of the better athletes on the field when he's there, when he's on that football field. And so I think that he can find himself a spot in this 53-man roster, but it may not be on the edge. And this is kind of what I want to kind of detail out, is that if we were to move him to linebacker, right? And I want to look at a little bit of what our linebacker room looks like, because obviously he's not going to take over Max Crosby or Malcolm Kuntz's position, right? But when we look at the depth when it comes to the edge rushing position, we need someone that can play all three downs. We need someone that's going to be able to step in and be a solid piece on that side of the line. And I don't think that's him. I think he's more, again, he's only 235 pounds, so he's not heavy enough really to be that edge rusher. And so if he were to take that chance, or the Raiders look at him as more of an outside linebacker position, let's take a look at our depth chart. Let's look at our linebackers. I think that there's a really good chance. You know, right now we have Divine Diablo, Robert Spillane, and Luke Masterson. Tommy Eichenberg was one of our draft, was one of our draft pickups, which I really like Tommy Eichenberg. I think he's going to do a really good job, and possibly in the next couple of years he might replace Robert Spillane when the contract talks start to come up. But then you got Amari Burney, which he didn't show a whole lot last year. He was a 6th-round pick last year out of Florida. Didn't show a lot. Darian Butler, again, could be replaced. He's not solidified as a true a backup. And then you got Kanai Mauga. I mean, our depth at the linebacker position is not very good. And one of the things that I really like about Amari Gainer is that he played linebacker at Florida State, and he did well at linebacker. And so if he could find himself, if he can find himself moving back to the linebacker position and fighting his way to be a depth piece in this linebacker room, I really do think that that gives him a really good shot at becoming or at making this 53 man roster. I mean, we didn't pick up any undrafted free agents that were linebackers. So that's where I think Amari Gainer might be able to find himself on this 53. And the other thing that I will add is that because he's such a good athlete, he could play a massive role in special teams. One of the things I've detailed out in the previous videos is that in order for undrafted free agents to really make the 53 man roster, one of the ways that they can show it, and one of the main ways they show it, is through special teams. Can you contribute in special teams? And with the new kickoff rules, you're going to find kickoff teams, guys that got to go down and make tackles. You might find yourself making 20, 30 more tackles a season because we can see 20 to 30 more kickoff returns this year. And so you need solidified tacklers on this kickoff team. And he is an absolute athlete. He is an absolute ball hawk. Even when he played at Florida State, even when he got his chances at University of North Carolina, one of the things is he had a nose for the football. He was able to track that football down. And so he can find himself contributing on special teams, but then find himself a depth spot behind the linebacker position, maybe one of those outside linebackers behind Divine Diablo or Luke Masterson. I think that's where he could possibly find himself a spot. So, guys, at the end of the day, let me know in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Amari Gainer? Do you think that by switching over to a linebacker position, would he have a shot at making this 53-man roster? Or shoot, do you think that he still could make this roster as an edge rusher? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, guys. So one of the last guys that I think that has a really good chance at making this 53-man roster is Ron Stone. Ron Stone out of Washington State. He's a fifth-year senior, 6'3", 247 pounds. I'm going to go through the pros and cons, but on Ron Stone. But before I do, let's take a look at his stats, right? And he's a fifth-year senior. So in 2019, he had a total of 16 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. In 2020, he had 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. 2021, he had 48 total tackles, 9 tackles for losses, 5 sacks. 2022, 27 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. And in 2023, he ended with 52 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. One of the things that I really like and what really caught my eye when it came to Ron Stone, and again, I don't just look at highlights, I look at full game film. And he played against some of the top competition when it came to offensive tackles in college football. I mean, he went up against Talisi Fuaga. They played Oregon State. He went against Troy Fontenot from Washington. And he also played against, his name is Jordan Morgan. He also played against Jordan Morgan at Arizona. Those are 3 top tackles that came out of college this past year. And he held his own. That was one of the things that impressed me most is he went up against some really good competition. And so one of the things I also like about Ron Stone, and again, I'm going through the pros, I will go over the cons, is that he's an all 3 down type of edge player. All right, he's going to play first down, second down, and third down. There's a lot of guys that are basically pass rush specialists, and they're going to find themselves just jumping in on the third down plays. He can play all 3 downs. And when you're looking for a depth piece that are going to sit behind Max Crosby and sit behind Malcolm Kuntz, that's what you need. You need a guy that's going to be able to play all 3 downs and be a solid backup to those guys. And now one of the things that I love about him is he's got a motor. He finds that football. He's got extremely good instincts. One of the things that I really liked about him is he played against a lot of teams that like to play that read option, and he played that read option very well. Sometimes that's one of the hardest things to do in football is play against that read option as an edge rusher. You don't know whether or not you're going to have to come down and take out that running back, or you're going to stay true to that quarterback. You got to kind of read it. A lot of times you have your assignment, but what I liked out of him when I saw him on film is his instincts kicked in, and he read it well every single time. And not only that, he's a very disciplined player. a lot of times where the play would go away, and then all of a sudden the ball carrier's coming back at him. He was there to make that stop. He was extremely disciplined, and that's what I really like to see out of him. That means that he's going to be able to be coachable. He's going to learn. He's going to understand his responsibility. So he played extremely disciplined. And even though he's not as extremely big, right? 6'3", 247 pounds, I think he can put on a little more weight and carry that weight well. He was extremely tough. What he lacked in overall size, he lacked in just complete toughness. He had that want. He had just that desire to get to the quarterback or get to that ball carrier no matter what it took. And so I really liked the toughness that I saw out of him. And now one of the things that you got to keep in mind is the Raiders, out of the 17 UDFAs that the Raiders brought on, Ron Stone was the second highest paid. I think they paid him close to $200,000 guaranteed money with a $25,000 signing bonus. That was the second highest, behind, I believe it was behind Jaquan Shepard. Jaquan Shepard got a little over $200,000. And so they paid him enough to say, hey, we want you here. We want to see you compete on the practice field and during preseason. And so they paid him more money than almost all the UDFAs. Only one undrafted free agent got more money than him. And so that says something. That says something when you put the dollar signs to it. And so now, outside of all that, right, then you have the cons. And the biggest con for me is his pass rush ability. I mean, he is solid against the run. When I saw him go up against Talisi Fuaga, he held his own. He was able to read the lineman in front of him, whether it be a power run scheme or a zone run scheme. He understood how to read it, and he moved extremely well to it, and he fought through blocks. His run defense is extremely, extremely good. Now, where he falls off is his pass rush ability. And so he definitely needs to work on it. One of the things that he allows the offensive tackles to do is to get into his body way too easily. As a defender, you want to keep the offensive lineman away from you. You want to keep those offensive blockers away from you. The moment you let them get into your body, the moment you let them get your hands on you, they can control you. And he kind of failed to kind of keep those offensive tackles, those linemen, even those lead blockers, kind of away from his body. And so he definitely needs to work on that. He can definitely use his hands better. I think that's one thing that he definitely needs to focus on, is just use his hands better during that pass rush. That's definitely something I want to see him work on. And then he's got to develop that third and fourth move. It was one of my biggest knocks on Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson, when he came into the league, he had no moves. He just had a bull rush. That's basically what he had because he was so big. With Ron Stone, it's kind of the same thing. He doesn't have that third and fourth move to kind of add to his repertoire when he's pass rushing, right? As a pass rusher, you want to have multiple moves that offensive tackle has to worry about. Are you going to beat him? Are you going to beat him with a speed rush on the outside? Are you going to bull rush him? Are you going to try to hit him with a speed rush, but then spin underneath? You want to keep that guy guessing. And unfortunately, with Ron Stone, he really didn't have that. Now, what I love is the fact that we have Andre Carter. Andre Carter is our pass rush specialist, and he is going to be a very good coach that can basically take Ron Stone under his wing and just develop that pass rush side. He's already got the run defense down. He's solid in the run defense. He's shown that on film. If he can kind of put together some pass rush ability, that's where I think he can really make a statement on this practice field and even in the preseason. So I'll definitely be watching out for it. And then again, another thing, I think he could be a hell of a special teams player. Just like I said about Amari Gaynor, I think that he can contribute on kickoff, even kickoff return, but most importantly, I think he can contribute on kickoff. Again, we're gonna see probably 80% more kickoffs this year, which means you need to have solid tacklers on that kickoff team. And it's not always going to be your starting 11 defense, right? You need to have those backups that can come on there and be solid tacklers, because they're going to be able to add 30, maybe 40 more tackles onto their season stats just because of the new kickoff rule. So you need some solid tacklers on this kickoff team. And Ron Stone is one of those that can definitely bring solid tackling to the kickoff team. So I appreciate you guys. That's kind of the end of it. That's the end of my evaluations of the undrafted free agents. I'm excited to watch them. Now keep a lookout for my next video. My next video June 1 is going to hit. June 1 is going to hit, and we're going to get a ton of salary cap. And we have a lot of reports that are tying us to some free agents out there, whether it's a corner that we're going to bring in. We might even trade for somebody. And I'm going to detail out what I think the Raiders can or should do with that salary cap. And so we'll look out for that. But guys, at the end of the day, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know, do you think Ron Stone does have a chance at making this 53-man roster? And give me your thoughts. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Again, please like this video, subscribe, turn on those notifications. I'll be doing my next giveaway at 4,000 subscribers. I hope you get involved in it. And if you want to, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm out.